What's up guys, welcome back to Bake It Better. In today's episode we are going to be tackling this, the Apple Tart, or Apple Tarte Tatin. This is a classic French pastry of fruit caramelized in butter and sugar. This pastry is a little more complicated than the other videos I've posted, but I am fully confident that if you follow my steps, you'll end up with a perfect result. So enough talk, let's get baking. First we want to make the caramel. So into our pot we'll sprinkle a small amount of sugar. We'll place that over medium heat. We'll give it a few shakes to ensure even cooking. Once most of the sugar has melted, we'll sprinkle a little bit more on top. Continue shaking and sprinkling and swirling and sprinkling until all the sugar is melted. Once it's reached a lovely amber, we can pour it onto our silpet or a piece of baking paper. We'll flip the paper on its sides to further spread out the caramel. This will just make the caramel cool a lot quicker. We'll leave this off to the side while we work on our apples. So first, we'll want to peel these beautiful Granny Smith apples. We mainly use Granny Smiths in the bake shop because their cell structure really stands up to being baked. They hold on to their texture and shape a lot better than other apple varieties. Next, we'll clean up our worktop. A big rule in the cooking world is clean as you go. Next, we can cut these guys right in half. I'd recommend using a chef's knife. It's a lot safer than using a paring knife. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm going to cut the top and bottom edges off. This will help ensure an even cook across the entire slice. But this step isn't necessary. Next we can cut the halves into quarters. We can then cut out the core. Again, a chef's knife is safer. We'll clean the worktop up again in between. Now we can slice the quarters into 3 equal slices. We'll drizzle some lemon juice just to prevent browning. Give these guys a little tossy toss and we'll set these aside while we finish our caramel. So now that the caramel is cooled down and rock hard, we can smack it a bit onto our tabletop just to break it up. Next we'll transfer it to the bowl of our food processor and we'll blitz it up until it's a nice fine powder. Ooh, caramel smoke. Don't breathe this. As you can see, it's all nice and powdery. Oops. We'll just wipe that away. Much better. Now we can prepare our pan. So into our pan we want to generously rub some softened butter into the bottom and the lower parts of the sides. Next we'll take the caramel powder and sprinkle a nice even layer onto the butter. Then we can start to tightly pack our apple slices into the pan, trying to fit as many as possible, while still ensuring an even amount of contact with the pan. Finally, we can evenly sprinkle on the remainder of our caramel powder, and then we'll wrap the pan tightly with some aluminum foil, making sure that it's nicely sealed. This will then go into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes, which is the perfect amount of time to make the tart dough. So, into the bowl of our stand mixer goes the flour, icing sugar and salt, and the almond flour. We'll give this a quick little mix to blend them all together. Next we can add in our small cubes of cold butter, sprinkling them around evenly. We'll mix this on low speed until the mixture resembles coarse breadcrumbs. We'll then add in our eggs and mix on medium-low speed until it forms into a cohesive dough. We'll turn this out onto our work surface and using our bench scraper, we'll cut off about 1/3 of the dough. The 2/3 that you'll have left over can be frozen and kept for later uses, like maybe a date night dessert. Wink wink nudge nudge. We'll place our tart dough between 2 sheets of baking paper and using a rolling pin, begin to roll the dough out. Just gently sliding the rolling pin along the paper, evenly smoothing it out thinner and thinner. When it's approximately 2 to 3 millimeters thick, we'll transfer it to a sheet pan and we'll leave it in the fridge for about 20 minutes to harden. So it's been about 20 minutes and we have the apples here. You can see that the butter, sugar, and juices from the apples have created this beautiful caramelly sauce, and the apples are cooked but still have some texture to them. We'll leave this aside to cool completely. Now that the dough is chilled, we can start to cut out our tarts. So using a circle cutter that's a little bit larger than the base of your tart ring, we'll cut the bases out and place it in the tart ring. If you're using a fluted shell like me, gently but firmly press the edges of the base into the edges of the ring. Next, we'll cut a nice long strip that's a little wider than your ring is tall. Roll the strip up and unwind it inside of the tart ring. Gently but firmly press the strip into the sides and the bottom edge of the ring. We'll then cut the little overlap piece off. And then next is time to trim the top off. Just carefully lift the tart up and slowly slice along the tart ring with a paring knife, turning the ring as you go. We'll trim off all the excess and then we'll transfer this to our baking sheet. Now if you don't have a perforated pan like me, then we'll need to dock the dough. Just gently poke it in the base with either a paring knife or a fork. We'll place these in a 320-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until they get golden brown, just like this. We'll let these cool completely before assembly. Now that all the components are cooled, we can start assembly. So first I'm going to pipe some salted caramel that we had made in a previous episode into the base of the tart. Just spiral that around into a nice even layer. Next, we can start placing our apples. Flipping them over just to show off that beautiful color, we can start layering the slices of apple into the tart shell. It doesn't have to be perfect, that's the beauty of apple tarts. They have an inherent rustic nature about them, so perfection is subjective. And lastly, this is just a simple vanilla whipped cream with a little bit of icing sugar whipped in. We'll just pipe this into a nice tall rosette in the center of the tart. And here we have it, my take on a modern Apple Tarte Tatin. I love the balance of the tartness from the apples and the sweetness of the caramel. It is truly a beautiful combination. As always guys, you can find my recipe in the description below. Thanks for watching, I'll meet you back here in my kitchen for the next episode. I'll see you then.